From a biblical perspective, quite a few modern issues are not that simple. And one is this: people who enter the U.S. illegally. What do you think about this issue? Seen from a certain angle, this problem seems easy to solve. There is no country in this world that does not protect its border. The universal passport system exists to protect each nation's border. To legally remain in a country as a non-tourist, one must obtain visa. Mexico required this of me annually for 11 years. That was 2002. This was always nerve-wracking due to requirements and costly. It was 172 times 5. It reached over $1,000 by the time I was done. Southern border, Mexico has one too. Mexico Southern Plan, the fact, crackdown underway on migration from Central America. Southern border, 6,000 deportation of illegal aliens to Guatemala. Mexican people are very tough on Guatemala people when they enter their country illegally. You will never know that unless you live there. Everybody does this. How much more then, since even the nations in the Old Testament time did the same. 15th century BC, Moses spoke to the king of Edom because that nation was occupying this particular territory. Please let us pass through your land. We will not pass through field or vineyard or drink water from a well. We will not turn aside to the right hand or to the left hand until we pass through you. In other words, he asked for permission. Can we get a visa to pass through? The king of Edom said to Moses, "You shall not pass through, lest I come out with the sword against you." Visa rejected. What did Moses do? Israel turned away from him. Border was recognized even in the 5th century BC. This certainly is a hard issue. On the one hand, as people of faith, how should we respond to those who enter the U.S. illegally with the spirit of the gospel? But on the other hand, as believers, how should we respond to the actions of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, so-called ICE? In my opinion, there is no clear one-size-fits-all answer. Now I'd like to conclude this sermon by sharing a personal story. We lived in Chihuahua, Mexico for 11 years, and 3 times I would travel to Puebla, Neatican, to train missionaries or missionary candidates, 2003, 2007, 2010. In January 11, 2017, I wrote this devotional thought for today. The title was, "What Life is Like for the Families Left Behind in Mexico." And I used 2 verses, Romans 12:16, "Be willing to associate with people of low positions." Psalm 146:9, "Lord watched over the sojourners, he upholds the widows and the fatherless." I wrote this in 2017 of something happened 14 years earlier in 2003. I visited Neatican 3 times to deliver a week-long lecture series designed to train prospective missionaries. My first visit was in 2003, during which I stayed in Juanita's 3-story cinder block home. She was the mother of 3 children living alone without her husband. He was working in the United States after having entered illegally. And soon I came to understand why there were simply no jobs to be found in Neatican of 25,000 people. In fact, during a brief greeting at the opening worship service, the mayor mentioned that almost all households were without fathers and the juvenile delinquency was a serious issue. He asked us to pray for the city. During my stay, I witnessed firsthand the lives of Mexican families whose fathers were working in the United States as undocumented illegal migrants. Their children missed their father so deeply. Once a week, the family would walk to the nearest payphone, hoping to receive a call from the United States. Some days, they were able to talk. Other days, no call came. During dinner, they would recount the conversations they had with their father. Or on days without a call, they would share in the ache of missing him. This is the other side. These people are being humanized right before my eyes. Listening to those stories and sharing the carefully prepared meals, often generously all week to this guest from Korea, I found myself thinking the following. While I do not support illegal immigration, I still don't, I must learn to empathize with and show compassion toward those who live as illegal immigrants in the United States. No, it didn't change my biblical conviction. The law is law, every nation enforces it. But it was a time when I made a vow, I need to be nice to these people. So that day, wanting to express my gratitude to Juanita, I invited the whole family to a special dinner before I left. When I returned to Connecticut in 2007 to lecture once more, it seemed that Juanita and her children had already crossed into the United States, joining her husband as undocumented immigrants. I heard that her eldest daughter, who had been a teenager when we first met, had married a 40-year-old man who promised her love and stability. The news broke my heart. This is the reality for family left behind in Mexico. In light of my experience, I would like to respond to this dilemma as follows. First of all, despite entering the U.S. unlawfully and being deemed illegal alien by law, they remain bearers of God's image. How do you implement that? Well, on the one hand, as a believer, it is only right that the law fulfills its intended role, as here and in Mexico. For he is God's servant for your good, but if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he, the law, the civil government, is the servant of God, despite some exceptions, Nazi being one of them. But on the other hand, even so, we must be willing to engage with those in lowly circumstances, especially immigrants who have entered illegally but have no criminal records. That's a very important distinction. And extend to them tangible mercy and encouragement. Let me add one other element, gospel. This is Pastor, I won't mention his real name. He's legal, but he pastored a church full of illegal aliens. He was my student. I just talked to him not too long ago. And they've been there for a long time, 20, 30 years. Before it became like today, they were already living in fear. What do I tell them? This is what I told them. Now that you have both the gospel and the financial means, consider going back to your homeland as a missionary. They cannot say anything back to me. I went to their country. You got more money than before. You got gospel. Why don't you go back and be a missionary?